So we are going to try to finish very, very quickly. We don't have time. We have 20 minutes. We're learning Likkutei Sichot Volume 1, and we're in the last part of the Sichot for Tazria, chapter 15. And this is going to be on the Orach Chaim's amazing comment on the first pasuk, second pasuk actually, of our Sedra. על הפסוק אישה כי תזריע וילדה זכר, page 224, אומר אור החיים הקדוש, says the Orach Chaim. עוד ירמוז הכתוב לכנסת ישראל. So this is also talking, as we said already, about the Knesset Yisrael and the Almighty. They're the woman and the man here. The Knesset Yisrael, the congregation of Israel, is called an Isha. ככתוב כי בועלה יחוסייך. As the prophet Yeshayahu says, the one who, how would you say this? Who has relations with you makes you. So she's likened to a woman. Here he's talking about the congregation of Israel. Who has as it were relations with her? The Almighty. כשכנסת ישראל תזריע מצוות ומעשים טובים, he says, when the congregation of Israel will plant or sow mitzvos and good deeds, as it says, zir'u lachem litzdaka, as Hosea says, sow for charity, for tzedakah. הרי לפי הבטחת התורה וילדה זכר, בחינה נעלית יותר מבחינת נקבה וילדה ודאי. So according to the Torah, she'll give birth to a male, and this is certain, because v'yalda is vadai. She will certainly give birth to a male. וכך הוא מתרץ את קושייתו מדוע נאמר וילדה ולא אם תלד זכר. That's why the Torah says, it should have said, a woman, if she inseminates first, if it meant to just describe that she had given birth to a male. So if a woman inseminated and she gave birth to a male, that's how it should have said it. But it says, if a woman inseminates, she shall give birth to a male. Why? Because it's certain that she will give birth to a male. So on the physical level, we talked about what this means on Sunday. Now we're talking about what it means spiritually. הדברים מוסבים לגאולה עתידה שתהיה בבחינת זכר. What this comes to say is that the future redemption, if it started by the congregation of Israel, will lead to something that's permanent, something that can be sustained, which is likened to the male. והוא מסביר את יתרון הגאולה עתידה לגבי גאולת מצרים, בכך שלגאולת מצרים לא היה קיום. And he explains that this is contradistinction to the redemption from Egypt, because the redemption from Egypt was not sustainable. והייתה אחרי הגלות, and there was another exile after it. אבל הגאולה העתידה תהיה גאולה שלמה שאין אחרי הגלות. But the future redemption will be a גאולה, will be a redemption after which there is no exile. משום שעבודת בני ישראל, אישה כי תזריע, תביא לידי כך שהגאולה העתידה תהיה בחינת זכר בקיום ועמידה לנצח. Because it will be preceded by the work of the Jewish people, of the congregation of Israel. So therefore, it will stand forever. So again, he's saying the same thing, that if the awakening comes from below, it begins with the actions of the Jewish people, then it leads to there being a male. On the other hand, if it starts from above, it gives birth to a female. But we already said that was only in the past. Now, in the present, because it's also connected, we've already done a lot of work. That was what we saw yesterday. We've already done a lot. We've prepared a vessel. So even if the awakening is from above, it gives birth to a male. Okay, but here we're talking about that the congregation of Israel is the one that starts. This is the crux of what he says. ייתכן לומר כי הדבר הוא בדוגמת הנאמר במחילתא, והדרך זה במדרש תהילים. כל השירות לשון נקבה חוץ משירת לעתיד לשון זכר שירו להשם שיר חדש. It might be said that this is similar to what it says in the Mechilta, that he's basing his things basically on the Mechilta. It says there, all the songs were said in the feminine conjugation, except for the shira. All the shirot are shira. They're all female, feminine songs, except for the song in the future, which will be in the masculine form. Shiru LaHashem shir chadash, not shira chadasha, but shir chadash. Atam l'Hashem isha hu The reason why she's called a woman, Ki ish lukach hazot, the Torah says, that Adam said, because she was taken from a man. So therefore she's called a woman. Eini she'ela kadosh baruch hu. What does this mean? That she was taken directly from God. Shenemar Hashem ish milchama, because Hashem is called an ish. It's a connotation that's used for Hashem. Hashem is a man of war, he's an ish milchama. וכיוון שכנסת ישראל נלקחת מהשם, ish, נקראת היא אישה. And so the congregation of Israel, because it was apart, it's taken from the Almighty, therefore it is called a woman. כל שם שבני ישראל, so here we see the understanding of what it means to be male and female. That the masculine represents God, and the feminine, again, represents the congregation of Israel. So the same thing would hold by shir and shira, that a shir is masculine, and therefore it represents God, and shira is said from below to above, and therefore it represents us. כל שם שבני ישראל מציין עניין מיוחד בהם. השם אישה מורה שכל מציאותם רק זה שמאיש לוקחה זאת. לבן ישראל אין נוגעת חומריות וגם לא גשמיות. So he says every name that the Jewish people have has a certain meaning, and it points to a certain quality about them. In this case, the fact that they're called an isha, they're called a woman, is because it wants to say that that all of their being is from God, meaning they don't care for materiality and not for physicality. לא חומריות ולא גשמיות. בעצם נפשו לא נוגעים לו גם פרס בשכר רוחני. And truthfully, a member of the congregation of Israel doesn't even care about receiving a reward or even a spiritual reward. ואפילו הדרגות הנעלות ביותר שבשכר הרוחני, even the highest levels of spiritual reward are not what he works for, he or she works for. נוגע לו רק הקדוש ברוך הוא בעצמו. The only thing he cares about is Hashem himself, is being close to Hashem. ובהתאם למוסבר לעיל במאמר, שאפילו הדרגות העילאיות ביותר בגן עדן העליון, אינן אלא הערה בלבד, ללא כל יחס לגבי עצמותו. And as it was explained in the mimer previously, there's a mimer for this week, in this week that he talked about, also starts Ishaki Tazria. This was in when was it? This was in 1959, mimer. So there he explained that this even refers, the fact that we don't care for spiritual reward, that even, we saw this when we talked about Chiyas HaMesim. So we also talked there, Tanya talks about in chapter 39, and here he talked about it then, that we don't care about the reward of the soul, even the highest levels of Gan Eden. Why? Because even the highest levels of Gan Eden, they're still not Hashem himself. And what we care about is a connection to Hashem himself. So all these are considered rewards. So we don't do things because of the reward, even in Gan Eden. And so, when there is now a feminine aspect of a Jew, what does it mean? That he only wants to be close to Hashem. That's his whole objective in following Torah and mitzvahs. There needs to be an act of sowing. And sowing has to happen in the earth. You can't sow in the ground, in the air, and you can't sow in water. כשיזרע מישהו את הגרעין לא בארץ, כי למעלה מ10 טפחים, או אפילו למטה מ10 טפחים, ואפילו ב3 טפחים סומכים לארץ, שהם כלבוד דמי, לא תבוא ממנו כל צמיחה. If you put it in the air, or you put it underground too far, even close to the first 3 tfachim, then nothing will come out. There won't be any plant that comes out. No produce. זריעה חייבת להיות אך ורק בארץ, ואז נוצרת ממנו צמיחה. So the sowing has to happen in the earth. So what does this mean for us? הוא הדבר בזריעת המצוות. The same thing when you are sowing mitzvos and acts of kindness. היא צריכה להיות אך ורק בארץ. They have to be in the earth. And what does that mean? ונאמר, וזרעתי עלי בארץ, כי תהיו אתם ארץ חפץ. דברים אלו הם דווקא למטה, לא למעלה מ10 טפחים, ואפילו למטה מ10 טפחים, כי אם בפועל ממש, It means that these actions, the mitzvos and the good deeds, they have to be something that can cause produce to grow. What does that mean? It means that it's a physical act. It means it's something that the other person sees. It can't be lemana masalat fachim. I thought good about you. It was very nice that you think good about me. I davened about you. It was very nice. Even the Gemara says in Bava I think, or in Kiddushin, I don't remember. It says that anoten matana letinok tzarich leodia et horav. That if you give a present to a baby, you have to tell the parents. How do you tell them? You put a little bit of what you gave him on his forehead, so that they see that he ate something. Back then, that was what it meant to do a favor. I don't know. Today, if you give him a cell phone, what do? You're not doing him a favor. As long as there is still no physical action, mitzvos just in the mind are simply not enough. They have to come with a physical embodiment. And it's even not enough to have good feelings about somebody, or just have good feelings about Torah, have good feelings about this and about that. You can't walk around life saying, oh, I really, really respect Torah. That's very nice. You actually have to learn it. You can't say, I really, really respect tefillin. You have to actually put them on. You can't just respect these things, because otherwise you're not sowing in the land. Because he would say, but the Almighty sees. He sees how I feel. Said it's very nice. You get points for how you feel, but that's not a mitzvah. It's something else. You're a really nice guy. They have your picture as employee of the month on the wall in heaven, but you didn't do anything, which means that in the end there was no mitzvah here. במצוות הצדקה שהיא כללות כל המצוות. אין די בכך שאדם ירחם על העני. So for instance, when we're talking about tzedakah, which is his favorite example, as we've seen many times in this volume, it's not enough to just have compassion for the person who needs money. ישפוך דמעות על מצבו. It's not even enough to cry for him. וכולו. ואילו המטבע יישאר בכיסו, but the money you're supposed to give to him stays in his pocket. That's not tzedakah. יש צורך לתת את המטבע לעני. You have to give the actual money to the person who needs it. כפי פשוטו של דבר בגשמיות. It has to be physically done. וכדרך שהדבר בצדקה ככה be expressed physically. ציצית בצמר גשמי. You have to have an actual tzitzis made out of wool. תפילין בקלף גשמי. They have to put tefillin on your head. They have to be made out of parchment. And you have to actually put them on your head. זו המשמעות של אישה כי תזריע כאשר אדם נמצא בבחינת אישה. This is what it means that a woman shall sow. That when a person is in the state of being a woman, like we just explained, that he wants to connect to God. He understands that the goal of life is from here, down here, to connect to Hashem's essence, substance. צריכה והכרחית להיות תזריע בארץ למטה. It is necessary to sow below in the earth. עלול הרי להיות שמישהו מרגשת יקר האיש הנעלית מכל הגילויים הלל, יש הרוי בקלות הנפש, דוגמת נדב ואביהו, שקדושים ביותר. Now it could be that because the person feels like he wants Hashem, but Hashem, he's an ish. And so if isha means that she's yearning for her ish, the ish himself, he's completely non-corporeal. He's not physical. So how do you connect to something that's not physical? How could it possibly be that a physical act would connect you to what is beyond all physicality? How does that work? Like for instance, Nadav and Avihu. What did they feel? They had klot hanefesh. They yearned so much for Hashem that their souls left their bodies. It's like a burning of the soul out of the body. And they were very holy. כפי שרש"י מביא שמשה אמר לאהרון שם גדולים ממני וממך ובקרובתם לפני השם מיד וימותו. הם הגיעו לדרגת כלות הנפש. So Rashi says, Aaron said to Moshe, they're greater than both me and you. And they were so great that the moment that they came in contact with godliness, they so yearned for it that their souls left their bodies. כלות הנפש. יש איפה להביא לידי כך שתהיה פעולה שתזריע בארץ דווקא. Therefore, what we need to do is that there should be a physical act. Otherwise, you could get to klot nefesh. Otherwise, you could depart. What does it mean, depart? So maybe it's not permanent. What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's klot nefesh also. That's very nice. I said you get employee of the month upstairs, but that is not what you're here for. You're here to take advantage of life, to live life to its fullest. And life, by definition, is that there's spiritual inside the physical. Can be and life is, by definition, the spiritual within the physical. And when you act this way, that you want to give birth to the male, meaning you want it to be sustained, there should be a birth. Certainly there will be a birth of a male that will bring the geula. Just as there is the future redemption can be a male, so can everything that we do be in the sense of a male, be masculine. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, because we're talking about the sustainability of the actions that we do. Whether they make an impression in the world, whether they remain, or whether they have klot nefesh, that they dissipate and they disappear and they're gone. Okay? All these good intentions that people have, they're very good, but in the final accounting, they dissipate. Because it's like a seed that was never sown. It's like the feeling I have is a seed. I have to see it always as a seed. Whenever I have a hirhu, tshuva, I say to myself, I'm going to get up now and I'm going to learn another blot of Zohar, another blot of Gemara, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go help my neighbor. I have these great thoughts, and they're wonderful, and I have real intense emotion with them. Those are seeds. And if you don't actually plant it, then you can't eat. There's nothing that's going to come from it. So this also is not just about making the geula, not just about making the redemption, it's about all our actions. The male, his way is to conquer. Okay? And to conquer means all of the world's ways, everything that's involved in the world. The male, that's what it means to give birth to a male. Everything should be done with enough intensity that it will reality, what we're connected to right now. We can't mess that up. Every moment is a hizdamnut. Every moment is a hizdamnut paz, as the Rebbe used to say. It's a golden opportunity. Especially if you have an awakening. And the awakening, that's what it means. The woman will sow. So the awakening is in the woman, then she needs to sow. So I'm the woman here, and I feel that I want to make an impression in reality. So that's sowing. As it says at the beginning of the Tur Shulchan Aruch, יתגבר כארי ולא יתבייש מפני המלעיגים, ובאמצעות עבודה זו מביאים הגאולה. You should awaken like a lion and not be embarrassed from those who scorn you. And thanks to this work, you bring the geula. דבר זה רמוז גם בנאמר בהמשך הפרשה וביום השמיני ימול בשר עולתו. This is also alluded to in the continuation of the first parsha, that on the 8th day he will circumcise his foreskin. על ידי העבודה של בחינת זכר מגיעים לבחינת יום השמיני. Through the work of giving birth to a male and then circumcising, then you reach the 8th day. This is where we have the sweetening. This is all talking about sweetening. Sweetening means that it remains forever. That's one of the things about sweetening. Sweetening is that I've transformed it completely so that it's sustainable forever. That's what it means to be a male. Okay? It's a very important aspect of what it means to be male. That it stands forever. And that's what it means here, sweetening. Because not only do you give birth to it, but you also circumcise it on the 8th day. And as we've seen already, the 8th day represents the continuous future, the continuous good state of the future. מתבטלים כל העניינים של היצר הרע על 7 השמות בהן הוא נקרא. And the eighth here, he says, is not just the eighth above the 7 days of the week. It's also the eighth above the 7 names of the evil inclination that we find in Masechet Sukkah. At the end of Sukkah, Daf Nun Beis, right? Amud Beis. Or Amud Aleph. I don't remember. Here it says Aleph. Okay. So you come to beyond the 7 names of the Yetzer Hara. The eighth is like saying, I've ascended above the evil inclination's 7 names. The 7 different names he uses to trick me into doing things that I think are good, but they're not very good. Uvichlalan arel. One of them is that he is with foreskin. He's an arel. That's one of his names. Venotzar inyan shel mila mal yudkei. And from that we become, this is the sweetening. It's taking the bitter and turning it into something sweet. And so from arel, which means something with a foreskin, and therefore it doesn't have a connection to Hashem, you come to a circumcision, milah, which is the word of Hashem. Saru mistaleka elem ha'ma'alim al shem Hashem. The covering, the foreskin, which was covering God's name, because God's name is in the ability to give birth to children. Shu klipat Amalek. And this foreskin is like Amalek. En Hashem shalem ad sheyimachaz harosh shel Amalek. Because the name is not complete until Amalek's name is obliterated. Umaltem et orlat levavchem. That's what it means, that you will circumcise the orla, the foreskin of your hearts. And this brings so again, this brings about the geula, but again, the point is that it happens because you did a physical act. And that's it. We finished the whole... A bit fast, but we finished in time.